Hello, everyone. Good evening, everyone. Good morning and good afternoon from wherever you are. If you're listening to the recording or you're listening to this live in your time zone, it's great to have you here. Welcome back, Group by Grace. Welcome back, Foluso.
Okay, so hello, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Welcome to Parenting with the Father on the Godly Parenting Summit page. And today's topic is Our Home is an Incubator of Greatness. It's a topic from this book, a book I wrote. It's called Parenting with the Father. So we're going to first of all introduce our great speaker. And once we do that, as usual, I will read the prayer from the book and I will read the guide and we get talking. So today, my speaker is Foluso Gbadamosi. Due to some very interesting technical issues, we can't see her, but we can hear her. I'm hoping that we will be able to see her. Do we want to try to add you one more time, just in case?
Okay, let me go out and come back in.
Okay, let's try that. And while she's doing that, I'll be introducing her. She's a speaker, she's a C-suite exec, she is a coach, and she is a mom of 3 amazing children, and she's also an author. How does she do this amazing stuff and ensure that she, makes her... Yes, we are beginning to see you. How does she do all this amazing stuff and ensure that her home is an incubator of greatness? Finally,
can you see me?
Perseverance pays.
Can you see me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, I can't see you, but you can see me. That's all that matters. That's fine. Devil is a liar. We're doing this Instagram live tonight.
We can hear you. It's a bit low, but we can see and hear you. Yes.
Why is it low? My AirPods are on. I can hear you very well. I can hear you very clearly. I can't see you, but I can hear you very clearly.
Okay. Guys in the audience, can you hear her? Once you can hear her, we're good.
Please.
You can hear her.
Please
just give us a thumbs up. Hello, everyone. Welcome. Portraits by
Welcome, everyone.
Welcome, Brenda. Welcome, everyone. Welcome, Malade. Welcome, Bossy B. I knew we were going to have quite an audience this evening.
Thank you. Somebody say she can. Yeah, they can hear. Hi, sis. Hi, sister.
Great. Hi, Mom. So today we're reading from this book. It's called Parenting with the Father. It's a book I wrote. It has 30 prayers, short prayers, and a guide with each prayer. It's supposed to help the just have a top up for the day, and you can do one a day and go through it in a month. Today's topic is My Home is an Incubator of Greatness, and I'm going to just read the prayer and the guide. They're very short, very quick, and then we'll get discussing. So, our home is an incubator of greatness. My home is a haven and a refuge for my children, a place of serenity and calm. My home is a place of joy, peace, and creativity, a place where ideas are born, learning is encouraged, and characters molded. My home is an incubator for greatness. My home is a well-watered garden where talent, visions, and legacies bloom. And the anchor verse is, by wisdom, a house is built, and by understanding, it is established. By knowledge, the rooms are filled with all the precious and pleasant riches. Proverbs 24, 3-4. And the guide goes, Dear parents, are you deliberate about making your home a haven for your children? The home should feel like a warm blanket on a rainy day, inviting, safe, and filled with warmth. It should be a place for your children to find peace, joy, and refuge from the chaotic world. Home should be your children's happy place. It should be a space that encourages play, learning, bonding, and quiet when needed. It should not be filled with toxicity and chaos. Children should take part in making and keeping a home a haven. Taking part helps them learn how to create their own refuge later and to value the one they have now. The physiological and emotional aura of the home is as important as its physical state. Making a home an incubator of greatness is not about expensive furniture, but about making memories, showcasing creativity, forging bonds, and inspiring greatness. Points to ponder. Is your home an incubator of greatness?
Beautiful. Beautiful.
Thank you. So tell me, what do you think? Is your home an incubator of greatness?
I think my home is an incubator of greatness, but I think that it's also a progressive journey. I think something that's very interesting about parenting is it's not like a light switch, right? Like all these things that we desire and we want, from our lives, from our parenting, for our children to enjoy. I think it's a journey, and I think it's really just about us being intentional and not letting circumstances, because there's so many things, that we adults have to deal with on a daily basis. I think about, people that are going through stuff, financially, people that are going through stuff with their marriages, people that are going through stuff with their children. And so making your home an incubator for greatness is not easy, but I definitely think that it can be done, especially if you're a believer, because like I like to say to people, when Jesus Christ came, he shed blood. He didn't shed Ribena, right? So we need to take hold of that power and enforce upon our lives that our homes will be incubators for greatness, even if everything around us does not look like it. Oh my goodness, adult life. But God is with us. Holy Spirit is our guide.
I love that. Very, very, very true. I say that parenting is not an arrival. It's not a destination. You just keep evolving and adjusting. Even when you think you've got the season right, something will just come up. Even when nothing comes up, your children are also evolving. And then when you have more than one, each child is evolving and unfolding in their own season, and you have to keep up with it. So yes, I do love the way you summarize that, and I love when you said Jesus didn't spill Ribena, he spilled blood.
Well, listen, it was blood.
It was blood.
Good blood.
For we, his children, so that tells you that sometimes we might need to spill a bit of tiny little blood for the sake of our children to bring them back home. Yeah.
That's deep. That's deep.
Yeah, because we are co-creators, right?
Absolutely.
That means everything that it takes. So my next question, this is the 21st century and you're raising Gen Z, Gen Alpha children in a very VUCA world. For those who don't know what VUCA is, it's unstable, it's chaotic, it's, all the good stuff that we have in this 21st century. And somehow we're saying in all of that, our home should be like a warm blanket on a rainy day.
On a rainy day.
Yeah. So the question is, could you give us some practical steps that you just, things you're intentional about to make that happen?
Yeah. So I think that I was very fortunate to have been surrounded by excellent mentors early in my parenting journey. So when my children were just born and much younger. In fact, let me start from even before my children were born. So I'll tell you a bit of a story. So prior to having my first daughter, so I have two lovely daughters. One is 13 and one is almost 10. And prior to having them, I remember before I even got married, I'd been having this, I think it was a mixture of maybe a vision that was confirmed by a dream / a feeling, very heavy feeling that I was going to have problems conceiving. And I remember thinking, okay, this is random. I was just a 20-something-year-old baby girl. So I'm like, I don't understand. Where is this one coming from? You know what I mean? But I'm a dreamer, right? And I remember thinking to myself, this is actually random. But it was very persistent. And so because it was persistent, I did something about it. I remember then I told my mom, I told my pastor, and we kind of just prayed about it. Now I got married, January 2010, actually, 14 and a half years or so ago. And Ify, do you know that one of my cousins and I were talking one day, and she says to me, oh, do you have an OBGYN in Nigeria? So I'd moved back from the US about 4 years prior to that. I had never gotten an OBGYN in Nigeria. So you know the way it is when you're in your 20s. It's not different. That's why I understand 20-year-olds a lot, because I still remember being in my 20s. your reality is so different from the reality of people that are parenting, people that are building career. I mean, you are building something, do you understand? But it's not the same mindset because you're in your 20s. Anyway, so my cousin was like, oh, make sure that you get an OBGYN in Nigeria. I mean, you're a grown woman, you know, all of that stuff. I think at this point, I was probably 28 or 29. Anyway, so I got an OBGYN. Fast forward, I went on a regular OBGYN visit, and it became a whole story about how you're going to have issues conceiving because the lining of your womb is thicker than it should be at this time of your cycle. That meeting went from 0 to 100. I'm sitting down there like, I don't understand. I came here for normal checkup, and now you're telling me all these things. And then I got confirmation, and it was like, oh, you're going to have issues conceiving. And then I remembered my dreams of premonition, right? And so I remember steps. They would have to take some of the lining of my womb. They would have to test it to make sure that I wasn't cancerous. It was very dramatic. I'm talking about it now and I'm laughing, but it was quite dramatic.
Must have been.
Anyway, so I went to the UK. Yeah, so I went and to get the procedure done. And I remember the first weekend that I was there, I went to Jesus House with my friends that lived in London at the time, Jesus House, London. And I went into their bookstore. I just went to their bookstore randomly and I saw Supernatural Childbirth. That book changed my life. That book, everybody I know that's pregnant that I love, I buy it for. So if you're pregnant and I didn't buy it for you, you have to question if I love you, because that book changed my life. And that book became the foundation of my parenting journey. I'll be very honest with you, because when I read that book and I saw all the things that woman went through, and she wrote that book, and she was very intentional about speaking life, you know, not just into her body and into her womb, but even into her unborn children. I'd never seen anything like this in my life.
Wow.
So I was like, okay, let me get here inside this book real deep. You know, let me and this book become buddies. And we did. First of all, I didn't have to have any procedure because I decided that I wasn't going to do it. So I had a knowing that I wasn't going to do a procedure. Everybody thought I was crazy. My husband, my mom, they were like, okay, so you came all the way to London and you're going to do it. I'm like, I'm not going to do it because I don't think that God wants me to do it. And I think everybody eventually just, you know, got on the same wavelength as me. So came back to Nigeria, and in 2 months, unplanned, I'm pregnant. And I had a horrible pregnancy. My first pregnancy was absolutely horrible. I can't even describe to you how horrible it was. It was really terrible. I mean, it was a spiritual battle from beginning to end. My daughter had to be brought out at 34 weeks, emergency C-section, because there was just some crazy stuff going on in the womb. In fact, the doctor said that when he brought her out, that he saw a pool of blood in my womb, and that he was afraid that something had happened, that maybe there had been a cord accident. Unfortunately, there was no cord accident. She's perfectly fine. She's wonderful. She's thriving. Glory to God.
Yes,
and you know, I think that whole entire experience changed me forever. It changed my mindset about parenting, about God, about what I have access to as a believer. It changed the way that I would just think about anything to do with parenting. So one other very major thing. Sorry, now I've forgotten the question that you asked me, but let me just try to conclude what I'm saying.
Keep it up.
By saying that it changed me. It changed me forever, because prior to that, I mean, I was just a 20-something-year-old girl in her late 20s, enjoying her life. I wasn't planning on getting pregnant as soon as I got married, but it happened. But obviously, we were grateful because they had told us that I was going to have issues conceiving. And so if it changed me, the book changed me, the experiences I had after that changed me, my conception supernaturally changed me, everything changed me, because from that point, I mean, I've never had issues conceiving. I never had any challenges that were womb related after that. And whenever I went for a checkup, they were like, everything seems fine. It seems like everything kind of just settled itself. And I'm like, can you just see God? And so I think for me, that experience of God with my own personal supernatural healing, my conception, even the horrible pregnancy, but having the victory at the end of it, reading the book, seeing how intentional that lady was about her parenting, even before she even gave birth, I decided, you know what, this kind of life that I need. So I started saying to God, I was like, God, you know what? These children that you're giving us, I'm one of those moms. So I'm not a helicopter mom. I'm not a mom that wants to try every extracurricular activity and see what you're good at. But I am I know you have talents and we're going to discover them kind of a mom. But I don't have the energy to try 100 extracurricular activities. So I said, God, can you just help us from when these girls are young to see what they are good at. Like, let us know. Let me and my husband know that this is what they are good at, and let us intentionally focus on those things that they are good at, such that they are working in their purpose from like early. Because I felt like I had a bit of like a slowdown with kind of figuring out what I wanted to do in my life, my potential, my purpose. And you know what? I can't lie to you. Those prayers were transformational because I see the fruits now. I see my two daughters, and first of all, I see how different they are, but I see how God has orchestrated so many things concerning two of them that it doesn't matter how smart, amazing, or excellent you are in parenting, you could never have figured it out yourself. It is the Holy Spirit, you know what I mean, that caused all those things to just be orchestrated in that way. And so for me, this whole parenting journey, as we said, it's a journey, right? It's not a destination, right? It's an entire journey in life. It really has to be one that you're doing with God. It really has to be one where you tell yourself that regardless of what your eyes can see and what is going on, you will engage that blood of Jesus that he shed, and you will ensure that to the best of your ability, your children walk in their full potential. Like you said, your home is an incubator for greatness. And there will be all those things that God created them to be, because as parents, that is what God needs us to do. He needs us not to be parents who are forcing square pegs into round holes and banging them in like, oh, you must be a round hole when you're a square peg. He needs us to recognize, oh dear, you are a square peg. Oh dear, you are a triangle. Do you understand? Let us fit you accordingly into what it is that you need to fit into based off of how he has created you.
Excellent. In fact, your entry into motherhood was very dramatic indeed.
It was so dramatic. And I've only told you some of it. I've not even told you all of it. I've only told you some. Abridged version, abridged. Drama. Drama.
I know. Don't worry. Let's just say I have 4 children, 4 high-risk pregnancies. Each risk was getting higher with each case.
Oh, Lord.
So trust me.
So you feel me. You feel me.
Yeah, I feel you. I feel you very, very well. There's a humbling experience when you go through having to fight for your children to be in this world. You view them differently.
Warfare.
You make it count, because you're going to tell yourself, nah, we didn't suffer through all that. You know, just like we say, we're not going to suffer here on earth and then miss heaven as well. Come on, that's not
heaven. Do you get?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so I love it. If you don't mind, could you let us know the name of that book again? Because I'm going to type it in the comments for those who...
Supernatural Childbirth. It's a fantastic book. It's super common. It's sold everywhere. Like, it's a small book. It's not very big. But the lady that wrote the book had several miscarriages, like several. And so she wrote this book. Jackie Mize, that's her name. She wrote this book really, really just to help people. And it's really a phenomenal book. It's a phenomenal book.
All right, guys. So I'm not sure if I got the surname right, but I've put it in the chat for you guys. Supernatural Childbirth, Jackie Mize.
Just Google it and you find it. Yeah.
Okay. Awesome. I think I'll need to own one of those. I'm someone who likes to... I'm a hoarder of resources. So when I see a good book, a good anything, I love that. Dig into it. Now, I'm going to ask you a question because I know almost everybody in this chat knows this, and it's going to be inevitable not to ask. How do you go from having an everyday child to becoming mom of a Disney voiceover artist?
Listen,
what's the path for that?
Mister, I'm still trying to make sense of it all. So, like I said, when I was talking about, just like the prayers, and I think that's why it was important for me to open up with that, because I don't want people to think, oh yeah, she just happens to have talent, or this, like there is nothing. First of all, things don't happen by accident in the spirit. That's number one. Number two is, it is very difficult as a parent in this generation with all of the different things that are calling for our attention, all of the stressors, all of the realities of life that we have to deal with. I was reading an article earlier today that said mothering has never been so difficult, only because mothers are doing a lot more than they've ever done, right? So mothers are managing homes, mothers are, building careers, they're building businesses, they're doing like 10 things at once. It's a lot. So I don't want to come here and, sound like, oh yeah, we just kind of knew. No. No. I'll say a few things and hopefully, people can kind of pick up stuff from that. So first of all, ever since Simisola was born, her voice, I remember several people saying, your daughter's voice sounds like a cartoon. But I mean, she's our daughter, so we're like, hey, it does. Okay, sure, if you guys say so. Simisola has always loved to read. Simisola reads in a very ferocious manner. It's not natural. Like, the way that she reads is very much ingrained in her by how God made her. So I believe that there's many things about her, obviously, that, kind of led her to this path. She loves to read. So because she loves to read, she has a very vivid imagination. Her imagination is super vivid. She is very determined. She's a very resilient child. She's had a lot of health challenges. If I start with that one, we won't live here today. And I've seen how all of those things have formed not just who she is today, but even this journey towards this. So all of these things are her. She's also a super positive child. She's super positive. She always sees the glass as half full instead of half empty. Like she's the kind of person that if you show her something bad, she would find the positive spin on it. She just likes to just be light. She's very positive. She's very outgoing. She's a happy kid. Now, when we got the script, I'll tell you exactly how it happened. Simisola she was in primary 5, so it was the end of primary 5, also known as year 5. And we got an email from a talent agency, a talent agency for young children that we had been a part of because she had gone for a few classes there, when she was younger, right? They used to have all these summer camp and programs. Anyway, so she'd been part of it. So we get this email on this day when she had just gotten discharged from having an emergency appendectomy. And when I say emergency, I mean emergency because her appendix was actually going to erupt inside of her stomach. Anyway, glory to God, it was brought out emergency. And I remember it was the day that she got discharged and we were on the way home. And I saw the email and I showed it to her and I'm like, oh, look at this email. Because the email simply said, it didn't say anything about, about who it was from. And when I say who it was from, I mean as in the production studio. It just said, here's the script. Yeah, it was kind of vague, which is how they do casting calls, Here's a script. If you have a child that's between this age and this age that likes to this and this, can you kindly have them record the script if you're interested, right? So we get home and she says, okay, let's record the script. So we record the script and we send it, and we forget about it. And then months and months later, we get an email saying, oh, she got the role and it's a Disney role. And we're all like, what? Are you freaking kidding us? What? And that's when it all began, So at this point, she's in primary 6, which is an exam class here in Nigeria, also known as year 6. She had a lot going on because she wanted to be head girl. So she ran for head girl. She won, thankfully, So she had a lot going on, She was head girl. She was doing entrance exams to secondary schools. And then she started recording. But I'll tell you what I noticed. Outside of her natural talent of just her, of her voice and her loving to read and the imagination that helped her imagine doing voiceovers. Because the thing about voiceovers is that they're actually much harder than physical full acting because you have to be in a booth by yourself. Imagine a 10-year-old child, she's in the booth by herself. She's reading these scripts and she's trying to imagine herself in these moments, right? Exactly. But because Simisola likes to read and her imagination is quite wide, I think that really helped her. Also, because she's super positive by nature, that also helped her a lot because I saw the days when she'll be tired, right? She'll be tired. In fact, she gave me a nickname and started to call me the Clown Brigade because she'll be tired and drained. And then, I'm there, I'm dancing for her. I'm like, you can do it, girl, you can do it, And then she starts laughing. And in that moment, she gets energy and continues. And that's that positivity, right? That positivity really, really got her going. Simisola is also a very deep thinker. So she's very high in strategic thinking. And so I noticed how that helped her as well because I could see that a lot of times, first of all, with her days. So on the days that she had to record, this is how I tell you. I could see her planning in her head how, okay, when I get back from school, I need to make sure that I do A, B, C, D, so that when we're going to the studio, I don't need to do my homework in the studio. Because she actually had a studio teacher. So rode 14 studios, and, you know, like how they just handled her talent was amazing, because she had a studio teacher, so that if she ever had to do homework in the studio, she could. But Simisola never had to do homework in the studio, because she would get it done at home before we went. So I could see how her nature and how God made her was working out even in her recording, because I could see her performing. And I think what we did as parents is that we're very nurturing of our girls and just who they are, right? So myself and my husband we're not parents that feel like, oh, this is how you should be as a child, right? Like, you know, the mold of a perfect child. I mean, I don't. So I'm the first of 4 children. You know, I see me and my siblings. We're all so different. We're similar in some ways, but we're largely different. And I love the way that we were brought up, because I feel like my parents, considering when they were born, I think that they did a very good job in nurturing us in our individuality. And so for me and my husband, nurturing our children in individuality was not difficult, because I think it's something that we both kind of already wanted to do. You know what I mean? Even kind of unconsciously. Yeah. Exactly. And so we were very intentional about, you know what, let's kind of just see where it all goes. But I think that all those things I mentioned to you were really the driving factors. And it's really because we as parents, we just let them be, right? So the thing about children is, and you know, I'm a Gallup Certified Strengths Coach. So I've done a lot of, you know, studying, and, you know, I'm certified, you know, to coach human beings in their talents and their strengths. Human beings all have talents. They all have a combination of talents. There's nobody that does not have. The people you like, the people you don't like.
Multiple talents, for that matter.
Multiple talents. Exactly. And so it's about that discovery. You see, that discovery stage is what all of us parents should be praying to God to let us have. And I think for me, praying those supernatural, like when I read Supernatural Childbirth, and I realized how intentional I could be about praying for my children even before they were born, it helped me start praying about their talents before they were born, because I felt like I felt like I did not discover my own until I was over 30. Do you understand? So one thing I said, I was like, God, there's no need to be doing 100 extracurricular activities. God, you can tell me what this is. I mean, the Bible says that we should call unto you, and you show us great and mighty things that we do not know. Can you please show us early? You know, so I think all of those things definitely came together in that God then opened up our eyes. And I also want to add something that I think is very important, because I get a lot of parents coming to me and saying to me, oh, you know, I want my child to voice act. Somebody even said to me, you know, I said to my child, look at Simisola, does she have, you know, that whole thing of, oh, look at her, if she can do it, so can you. I want us to be very, very careful. We don't say to our younger daughter, look at Simisola, look at you, ever, because they are different. Do you understand?
Completely.
I know that parents want the best for their children, but I find that the words of our mouth as parents sometimes even hampers the destiny of our children, because we're so busy trying to make them into who they are not. We're not praying them into their own destiny. We're trying to pray them into somebody else's destiny. Do you understand? You need to, as a parent, you need to say, I don't know anything, God. I say, the way that I say I don't know anything, I'm like, God, as I'm like this, I know nothing. You know everything. So can you please help me out? So instead of trying to, you know, looking at people and saying, oh, I want that, ask God what he wants for your children. Maybe your child is not supposed to be an A-star all the way student. Maybe your child is not supposed to be the child that wins all the awards. Maybe your child is never supposed to win a single award in school. Maybe that is something tied to their destiny. You don't know. So you don't want to be the person who you are terminating destiny because of your mouth. Because don't forget that death and life is in the power of the tongue. And as a parent, you have so much power in your tongue. You know, my mom and I were speaking earlier today about the things that parents say that they don't even realize is what has affected their children at 60, at 70. You see, some 60-year-olds is what their parents said to them when they were 10 that's still following them.
You're so right. You're so right. You know, I said earlier that we are co-creators with Christ, right? And that means that we have a lot of power to do and undo in our children's lives. Just this weekend, I was attending a retreat, and we were talking about how you go from your temperament, which is what is in a sense, what God creates you with, right? God. So the way I see this is God already knows how you fit through time. From the day you were born till the day you're going to die.
Absolutely.
He knows exactly what he's created you to fulfill. And he knows what you need to do that. And so he's going to give you the spark with a little bundle of talents, raw energy, personality, all of that. And it's up to your parents to take that and form the foundation of your character, because it's your nurturing, your environment, and all that works with your personality to form your with your temperament to form your character. And then, of course, as you live life longer, the longer you live life, your personality is evolved out of your character. So I tell parents that you hold tremendous power in your hand, because you're taking the raw material, that God has put in your custody, and you're going to shape it into the foundation of a massive building. Just imagine that God gave you cement, gave you sand, gave you the tractor, the engineers, and says, go and build me a mansion. And the only thing you're allowed to do is decide the foundation based on what you know about foundation, salt. If you like, do salt test. If you don't like, don't do salt test. If you like, build it in the slimmest foundation because you're busy, making more deals to make more money and advertising that you're a builder. All you're allowed to do is build the foundation, and after that, the house will take shape based on whatever foundation. Just imagine parenting like that. That means you have to really focus on that foundation. And if you've ever built a home, foundation is one of the most frustrating parts of the house, because you're literally pouring money into the soil.
And it's so important.
You're not seeing, You're not seeing the end. And that's the thing with children. Sometimes you may not see the outcome immediately. You might see it eventually, and it all ties up. And then one day, this child that has just been going through life, and then they get to their teenage or their 20s, and all of a sudden, in 6 months, they get it and they fly.
That's it.
You said something, and I really wanted to hold on to that. You said your child may not be the child that would even receive any award. Now, parents, before you go saying God forbid, there is nowhere where God said that your children need awards to be great.
Listen,
awards,
say it again so that those back can hear.
Yes, they are man-made structures, but God created the people that even created the awards and created your child. And every human being has a purpose, a world-changing purpose. So even if they didn't receive awards or accolades, or they're just going through life in quotes, being mediocre, I don't even like that word, but I'm trying to get people to understand. If they don't even do anything great in their as children, it doesn't mean
or that the parent thinks is great. You know what I mean?
Thank you. Or that the parent thinks is great. Because the thing is, your child, I have a child who is an amazing nurturer. She's the one who will remember. She would see your face and say, Mommy, are you all right? Do you have a headache? So she's not asking you that. Yeah, and in the earlier years in primary school, she wasn't so strong academically, right? And it used to weigh her down, and she would think she was not as good, because I have some very determined human beings in my house. I tell parents that when you say, oh, Father Lord, make my children leaders in their time, I said, better remember to pray, make me a parent of a leader, make me capable to be the parent of a leader. Because leaders do the hard stuff. Yes, leaders are not necessarily the easiest people to live with. So you, the parent, need to also groom yourself to be the parent of a leader. And anyway, not to go too far. This child of mine, we got her into secondary school, and one of the conversations I had with her was, look, I know you keep worrying about your academics and all that, and I'm not worried. As long as I know you're putting in your genuine best.
And
it's not like she wasn't doing well, though. She was doing okay, but she has, like I said, siblings who are
wanted more, because she could see her siblings. Yeah.
Exactly. And I said, okay, so this is what we're going to do. Think of secondary school as a fresh start. Yes, you have your friends. A few of them are coming, but this is the opportunity for you to decide, I want to be this person. I know we've had a bit of a rough start. She was the kind of child who would talk in whispers most of her junior primary. When they have their assembly and her class is presenting, I already know to be on standby on the phone, because the teachers would definitely call me to give her pep talk just so she would speak.
Yeah.
And so she had all that in quote stigma, because her friends knew her to be like that and when she was trying to bloom, they were still trying to identify her as that person they knew. And their children, I mean, what do they know? So I said, this is secondary school. You have a chance to rewrite your narrative. And boy, did she take that very, very seriously. Because what we have now is a child who, in her first year in secondary school, barely spoke in class, used to have panic attacks when they had anything. Wow. She used to worry about making friends, and we would have talks and talks and talks. I would do confidence boosting exercises with her, things like that. We will make sure the extracurriculars were things that she thoroughly enjoyed, had nothing to do with whether they were building her up. Or not. Long and short, this child is now an honor roll student in less than 2 years. She's in all of this. She wrote a book in primary school, in primary 5.
Wow.
Yep. Yeah. And the funny thing is, I just keep telling her, even when she has her moments of doubt, I simply send her back to remember who she is. You are doing this. You are doing that. She's shown consistent and steady progress. I tell this story to parents because it doesn't matter when your child picks up. What matters is that they know you love them as they are. You accept them as they are. Acceptance is so important in this era. So back to you.
So good. Good.
So we've talked about the psychology of all of this, but sometimes we might even need to do some practical things in our homes to make sure our homes are incubators of greatness. I mean, your child is not going to be great if they're not getting enough sleep, for example. Your child is not going to be great if they're not having healthy meals, for example. So I want us to speak to the practical things now. What do we do in our homes that ensure that our children, we give them that opportunity to bring forth their greatness?
Yeah, that's a great question. So outside of, I think, the things that we see pretty much plastered everywhere, about, the number of hours children should sleep, the kind of food they should be eating, drinking enough water, all of that. I just want to talk about what this whole principle of greatness really is about, right? So if you think about what the definition of greatness is in the, like in the English dictionary, and even what God says that greatness is, it's going to be very hard for you to bring up children who are walking in their purpose. First of all, before that, let me explain that, similar to what you were just saying about, parenting and your daughter, greatness is not a one-size-fits-all. Yeah. Greatness is actually you living out the purpose that God created you to live out, right? So if I'm successful, in quotes, in what God didn't create me to do, I don't know if that's really great, because a part of me inside will feel uncomfortable. And that's why we have people that are middle-aged who are still questioning their purpose in life, because you are not necessarily doing that which God created you to do. And it causes a lot of conflict and friction in the human mind, especially as you get older. I don't care how much money you have, because it's like, okay, so is this all? You need to, you as a parent need to be very visionary when it comes to your children. Begin with the end in mind, right? Think about the future. Think about how you want this child to not just be a hearer of what you say, but a doer. Now, for you to be a doer in our environment, I'm going to speak very, very specifically to the Nigerian environment, because there's many things I've observed that stress me out. They stress me out so badly. All my friends are tired of hearing me complain about it. We like to compare as parents, and our homes then become an incubator of comparison, an incubator of stress. for your children. Because first of all, we think that children are more mature and wiser than they really are. The Bible says foolishness abounds in the heart of a child. I'm not abusing our children. The Bible said it. You understand?
Yes.
So for you to expect that a 13, 14, 15,
anyway.
hello, it's not fully formed until you are 24. So for us to expect that a 10, 11, 12-year-old is going to just be making wise decisions, really? You have to correct them. That's why you have to be present, because you have to parent. Parenting is hard work. You need to literally correct, coach, mentor, teach, and it's different for every child. What one child gets in a snap of a finger might take another child a few sessions of repeating yourself and maybe even consequences of actions for the child to get. It doesn't make them a bad child. So I don't like the way that we just, label children, we condemn them, we compare them with this. Another thing I hate so much is this whole thing about grades. So listen, Foluso was not an all-A student. I have never been an all-A student, and I have no issues with this. I'm proud of it. I don't see it as an issue. I don't see it as an issue in any way. I remember when I was younger, when I was in QC along with you, my grades were consistent. From JS1 to SS3, consistent. The things I got A's in them from beginning to end. The things I got my average grades in, it was consistent. And when I was because my mother randomly had all of my report cards. I don't even know why. I sent them to me one day. And I was looking at them, I just thought to myself, children actually give you signs of who they are. They give you clues. It's just like you don't want to accept the clues. Because if a child is naturally good at certain subjects, I'm not saying that they shouldn't push themselves to. I'm not saying that. Because there's also lazy children. And I was lazy in some ways. But I do think that if your child, you can see they're putting in their best, and their best is a B or a C. That is not a failing grade. No. I tell my daughter all the time, I'm like, a C is not a fail in my own book, so. And they look at me like, really, Mom? I'm like, but it's not a fail.
It's not.
So I think that we need to. It's exactly. So I think that we need to understand that for our homes to really be incubators of greatness, we ourselves need to unlearn, relearn. What is it? Unlearn, relearn, and there's another
unlearn,
unlearn, and relearn. On repeat. See how many people that got straight A's when you were in school, whether primary school or wherever, are doing great today. I'm not knocking anybody. I'm simply saying that our indicators of greatness are not always what it is. There are many people I know who did not get great grades in school. Some of them even had to repeat, and they are flying like rockets now.
Exactly.
So we have to be so careful not to lead our children astray with unnecessary expectations. What we need to do is be asking, listen, is it your best? Watch them. Make sure that if your child is a little bit lazy-ish like I was, you are pushing them, you're saying, my friend, go and study. Don't expect that they will just go and study. They won't. Push them to do the right thing. But when they get those grades and you know that they tried, accept the grades. It's okay. They did not fail. That's a major thing for me.
Hail the grades, encourage, champion, and cheerlead them because they put in their best.
Do you know that I used to cheerlead myself? I remember there were times when my mom would see my grades and she would look and she's like, so what's making you smile? Because I'm also very positive. And I'm looking at her like, these grades are very okay with me. I don't know what your issue is. My mother used to just look at me like, this girl. But now we talk about some, we have a very good laugh, but the reality is that my grades were consistent. Now, the other thing that I want to talk about that I think is very important is modeling. You see, many of us we are so hypocritical. You see, it's children that will let you know that you are hypocritical. Because your children are like a mirror to you. You tell your child that they should be polite, but then you are rude to domestic staff. You are rude to people because you think that they are not on your level. And listen, in our society, these are real issues. You tell your children that, they should be responsible and follow rules, but you're constantly breaking the rules. You are constantly breaking the rules.
So you tell your children that, breaking the rules subconsciously without thought.
It's not even conscious anymore. You tell your children that, as a responsible person, you should this and this and this. When it comes, my favorite example, when it comes to time of elections in Nigeria, it is out of your mouth that we're hearing, I'm not even going to vote. Listen, I know that we all have a problem with our leadership system. And I know that we don't trust the process. But you don't let little children hear you wearing, I'm not going to vote like a cloak. Because even if I vote, what will happen? You don't do it. I'm sorry. Because your children do not understand how to filter that. They don't.
And you understand why you're saying their right to vote by saying that.
And you are even taking away the importance of it as they get older. But the reality is that, listen, none of us really know. Do you know where your children are going to end up living in the world? Nope. Do you know what schools they're going to end up going to? You don't know. You are giving your child that mindset of voting is always rigged. Voting is always a lie. Those are the same children that they don't want to participate in maybe elections in school. They don't want to go into leadership. But then you are claiming, you are declaring at night that your child is the light of the world and the salt of the earth. They will be the head and never the tail. Hello, but your actions are the opposite. You are not acting like lights or salt. You are not acting like a head. You are acting like the bottom. You are not acting like a tail. You are acting like the bottom of the tail, the very bottom. I'm sorry, it's not okay. And you know what? I've decided that I'm not even condoning it anymore. I'm calling crap on it, even to myself, because nobody is perfect. We cannot say one thing and do the other. Oh yeah, be not just hearers, doers of it. What you are asking them to do, are you doing it? Do you know how many? The number of things I have been hearing, it's stressing me out so bad that we will not leave this call today. But I just don't understand how we think that we can be so hypocritical, but then our children should be perfect. How?
Yes, exactly. It's just like what we had in the last in the Zoom call we were both in just before we jumped on this one. Yeah. We have the prophet parents, we have the preacher parents,
let me pull it up.
I have it on my phone. Unfortunately, I can't open it here.
I'm going to open my own up because I put it up here. So there was the calendar parents, comparison and stereotype parents, glossing over hurt parents. My favorite one, if you study bestie parents, they said that one. They said the parents that have not been present in their children's lives, have not formed a bond with them. But when they are now older, you now want to be their bestie. And the children are looking at you like, I don't understand, bestie from where to where? And don't forget that these people, their mouths, they say what they feel. Which, honestly, I do agree that on a level, we definitely need to teach children, okay, when to speak and when not to speak and, how to do it. But when your children are telling you, when you have a 20-something-year-old child telling their parent that they don't want to be their friend,
So I tell parents that if by the time your child is in their 20s, they don't want to have a relationship with you, it's not on them, it's on you. Now, the reason is because children naturally adore their parents. They naturally crave for their parents, right? So how do we go from a child who's craving you to a child who doesn't want to spend time with you when you are the controlling figure in that dynamic for that duration? It means either you push them away consciously or unconsciously, or you didn't make it a nurturing environment. Basically, the ball was in your court and you refused to play.
Yes. And you know what I think is so difficult? Because I feel a lot for parents sometimes, because I know that there are many things that we actually don't see. I feel like there's many things that you actually don't realize. And that's why there's platforms like yours, and there's so many platforms nowadays. We live in the information age, so we cannot continue to use ignorance as an excuse. I'm not saying that everything that we see online is correct. There's a lot of crap out there, but you should be able to filter, the crap from what is good and take the good. And, yes, and be teachable as a parent. Something that so the call that we were both on prior to this there was like a parenting session, and it had a Gen Z lady who's in her 20s and like a counselor, and they were having a conversation. And the Gen Z girl, she gave it to all the parents. She gave all of us. She gave it to us hard, raw, very politely. She gave it to us, but she was very honest. And many of what she said is just the God honest truth, because you cannot expect that. First of all, the operating system that you were brought up on, your children should be brought up on. There's something that she said that I thought was so powerful that goes back to this point about your home being an incubator for greatness. In Nigeria, we like to glorify suffering, and I'm tired of it. I'm really sick and tired of it. You glorify suffering. So you suffered when you were in secondary school, so your children should suffer. Sorry, that glorification of suffering, what has been the fruits of it? On a national level, not in your own life. You are perfect. Suffering is not a good thing. It is not a good thing to think small. It's not a good thing to think that, you should just shrink and not be able to speak. Those are not good things. Those are not good things. Yeah. So when we promote them as parents, what are we trying to imply? So you say to your child, when I was your age, I suffered, so you too must suffer. Do you know that thing? I've never understood it. Because guess what? What you sow is what you reap. And just going back to God, sis, this thing is a matter of sowing and reaping. And I've seen it. I see it with some of my friends, some of my family members, older people. You cannot sow ridiculous things into your children's life and expect that you're going to be reaping a beautiful, bountiful harvest.
No,
What beautiful, bountiful harvest are
you can't. You can't. It's like it's conditioning.
Thank you. Thank you. You know, so this whole thing about your home being an incubator for greatness, it's really you being intentional. And I know that word, you know, that word is a bit tiring sometimes because we've all heard it. But it's really as simple as you being intentional. Begin with the end in mind. Begin with the end in mind. Do you want your children to be your friend when you are 60, 70? What do you want? Do you want children that, because life also switches, and many of us here know that, because at some point, even though your parents were parenting you for a long time, at some point when they get older, it's like you are not the one that's not parenting them. You want children that you are responsible enough that you can live your life in their hands, because they are the ones that will be making decisions. They are making decisions about your well-being. Your children are gathering to talk about what to do with mommy and daddy. Okay, this happened. What should we do? So you want to raise children that you can live your life in their hands.
That's exactly what TD Jake said. You want to be able to raise children whom you can live your lives in their hands, because that is exactly what's going to happen. We're not going to live forever, and we're not going to be independent forever.
You know? Yes. Exactly. By God's grace, you know, we would all live to see our children's children and more as the Lord tarries. But the point is that you cannot be sowing horrible things into your children's life. You're just a horrible, mean person. No, nobody wants to be around you. And you cannot introspect and ask yourself why. Oh, this is how they did it for me. I'm going to do it like that. Okay, how did you end up? You are actually traumatized, and you are passing on generations of trauma. Simple and short. Trauma has not become it. I'm not even a generational cause anymore. Leave the devil alone. It's not bad behavior. Bad because you know better.
Right.
Let's be honest.
So one of the things we take home from today is part of making your home an incubator for greatness is deal with your own baggage. Don't bring your baggage into your home. Not that we can. So the thing is, we are human beings, right?
Yeah.
And we will always have things we are working on. It will always be. But the question is, do you want to have one huge bag of baggage in between you and your children? Or do you want to have a small suitcase so that it's easy to push it aside and face your children?
I love it. Yep.
That's it. Yeah, that's the thing. Parents, there's like Foluso said, there's so many platforms. If it's not this one, there's so many. There's so many things you can find online. We can no longer use our childhood as crutches for not doing the right thing as parents.
You can't. It's so bad.
The right thing. We're in godly parenting, so I'm not even going to
another thing
be politically
that I've
correct.
also observed that I think is important. I've noticed that a lot of schools actually try. You know, schools try to organize parenting seminars. Even parents don't ever attend that stuff.
No, they
when
don't.
You look at the number of parents, all of us in all our children's schools, don't lie and let the devil be ashamed. If anybody here goes to a bit, like your child is above a certain age, I'm not talking about when they're very small, because when they're very small, parents are very excited and full of energy. They go for everything. The times when you're meant to be going to school, the school is organizing parenting seminar to teach you things, they're inviting guests, and you never attend. You don't think that is important. That's also sending a message to your children.
Oh,
you understand?
Of course.
The fact that you can be learning, even you not attending, is sending a message to your children. And so for me, I'm just like, there are actually a lot of opportunities for us to learn, but we don't want to do them. We're so busy chasing bread and butter. And bread and butter is important. But that same butter is going to give you runny tummy if you're not careful. You have to know where the butter should stop.
Your cholesterol.
Thank you.
I mean, there are statistics that show that parents who participate in their children's school, the children whose parents participate in their school activities do better. And the thing is, it's basic psychology. Your children subconsciously know that first of all, they know the parents are involved. So it gives them that feel-good hormone, that motivation and inspiration to want to do better. Of course, they know that mom and dad are just half a phone call away. Accountability. So it gives you accountability. You as the parent, you get to know the community because you are invested. So why is it that you need to get involved in your children's schools? For me, I'm very strategic. When I know that my children are going to be in a particular environment for a particular season, right? I observe for the
first few months, weeks, years, depending on the situation. Then I get that's in a short while, they're like, oh, you don't know Mrs. Okafor. Like, where have you been? That's me.
That's me from day one. That's me from day one in the school.
No, me, I like to observe. I'm the quiet, and I'll just be, because by the time I start,
you
I
feel
don't
like you are
talk.
more introverted. So, I'm more extroverted. That's me from day one. And everybody's face is like, hi.
Get involved.
But it's important. Parents. It's important.
Yes.
Parents don't get involved. If they
don't. Your house. That's the thing. The incubator is not just your house. It's the community in which your children transact.
Your community. Thank you. Absolutely.
Know your children's friends? Do you know the parents of your children's besties?
Listen,
are you friends?
That one I learned it from my mother. There's no friend I had that my mother did not know their whole entire family.
My mother.
Yeah.
Same.
Let's try to promote generational, health, not just wealth and money. Let's even promote like healthy values, healthy habits that our children can emulate when they have children. You and I have said a few things that we said, oh, our parents did. Those are healthy seeds that were sown into our lives that we're now producing, and it's now on the next generation. Let's try to be the same. Even the things that we know that they did not do right, let us try to now do the right thing instead of continually propagating the agenda of just bad behavior. Oh, I know it's not it, but in Nigeria, this is how it is. I find it so mind-blowing that we know that things are wrong, but because we experience them, we want everybody to suffer it too. I'm like, really? Isn't that just witchcraft and evil? But anyway, don't let me go that way because we won't finish this call tonight.
Yes, thank you so much. Okay, guys, if anyone has questions, this is the time to put those questions in the comments. I have been scanning to see. I see all your comments. I see Crinkleberry talking about leaving this to drivers and nannies. Yes, a lot of parents leave drivers and nannies to do this. I see Lillian's question. How did you deal with a child you know that is smart, but always distracts herself and is causing her to have poor grades in school?
I think that's a fantastic question. And can I take a stab at it? And I'm sure that you would
go ahead.
You would also have a thought. So I think that when you start to observe things in your child, whether it's a behavioral change, as in they normally act a certain way and then they're not acting differently, or whether it's something that you're like, this doesn't really, look right because you're supposed to be doing, maybe there's a policy, and your child just seems to constantly break the policy or the rules. Whatever, or your child is getting distracted instead of doing what they're supposed to be doing. You need to now become a monitoring spirit to observe your child's daily, you need to actually observe their behavior. There was a time when, I'll give you a quick example. My younger daughter had a very traumatizing experience with a class teacher. He's the only spirit that helped us even see this thing, because my younger daughter at the time was not very expressive. I mean, she was maybe all of 7, I don't expect much from a 7-year-old anyway. But she didn't say anything. But we noticed a few things. And then one of my friends whose daughter is also in the class called me one day and, said something that put the light switch on in my head. And I took the time for a few days to observe her behavior, observe her after school, pick her up from school. And we made a great big discovery that we would never have made if we were not present. There are many things that we can fix once we catch it, once we pick it up. The problem is sometimes we see these things and we define them without stepping back. There's no child that's innately bad. Do you understand? Everything about, or even innately good, everything about them is a result of their environment. So if you notice that your child is just seems to constantly be breaking the rules, you need to step back. First of all, observe them. Is it peer pressure? Is it bad? Is it friends that are making them do that? Is it like that your child gets easily distracted? I'll give you another example. So I'm very extroverted, in case you couldn't notice from even the way I've been talking, right? In secondary school, in QC had very large classes of several students. And some classes were really tough for me to sit through. I would be talking and they would always report to my mom, parents, teachers, that me and my friends, we talk too much. But do you know why I was talking? Because extroverts do not do good with teachers who all they do is just write on the board and are dialoguing with themselves and they don't engage the class. I feed off of energy from people. I feed off of engagement. And so as a child, it wasn't working for me. Now, that's not to say that So if my child is an extrovert, they shouldn't go to this kind of school. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is that sometimes that child is reacting to the environment they are in, and a part of them is resisting it because it doesn't come to them naturally. So what you need to do as a parent is explain to your child, hello child, I can see that maybe you like to talk or you think that breaking rules is a good thing, but it's actually not. You more than likely have A, B, C, and D going on, and this is how you need to handle it. You know, we need to teach our children how to handle their emotions. It's the same way when my younger daughter wasn't really talking and speaking about what was going on with her days. We made it a rule in our house that, because every day we have conversations, so I couldn't believe that this girl was not really talking. But we made it a rule that if you ever ask her anything about her day, and she says that she doesn't know, as in, one of my sisters said that she's going to give her what we call the tickle of death. She will tickle her until she cannot handle it anymore, and she has to talk. Now my daughter, you see how even being like, this girl is telling so many stories about her day. My goodness, now we have entered this. But that's you just being present and nurturing them, because they're learning how to adjust to many things as well. So for your question, lady, I think that what you need to do is observe your daughter or your son's pattern.
Yeah.
Is it peer pressure? Is it because friends? Listen, secondary school and peer pressure and friends happens. So you have to be able to know, okay, is that what it is, or is it something else? Is it certain kinds of policies that you're breaking? What is the pattern here? But then it takes a lot of work from your end. And I just want to say, because I know that we're going to round up soon, that ladies and gentlemen, listen, we're not here acting like know-it-alls. Parenting is hard. It's not easy at all. And that's why it's called the Godly Parenting Summit. Without God, I'm not interested in parenting, because there's no way that you get everything right. Even with God, you still know that as a human being, you don't always listen to the Holy Spirit. So sometimes your spirit is not genuine, and you just maybe you think it's not that big of a deal. So you need to have an anchor. You need to have a guide that's more than your brain. What do you know about parenting? Even if you've been parenting for 30, 40 years, what do you really know? Right?
Exactly.
And so,
yeah. I love that. Love that response. Yes. So for Lillian, the thing is this. First of all, Foluso has said it. Observe what that child is going through. Was this child always distracted? Has this child always been distracted, or is it a recent thing? Either way, there's something I will tell you, because I am the mother of a child that is very self-motivated, but very easily distracted. Like this child, even as at grade 6, if she was writing and a fly flew past her, she would stop writing. She would look at the fly. From looking at the fly, she would. But the thing is, she's very brilliant. So she catches up. She kind of covers up for that. For a child who is very distracted and a child, so I'll tell you something you need to understand. I went to a primary school that was quite innovative. It was called Nazareth School. And they used to do exams mid-year and reassign us classes based on our grades. And what they would do was, for those who are very, intellectually inclined, academically inclined, you would go ahead. So if you were in A class, for example, you were doing things ahead of those who were in B to F. And if you were in F class, you had 2 teachers because you needed more support. Parents didn't like it, but guess what? It worked so well for us children.
Awesome.
Now, why am I saying this?
Awesome.
A child who is very intelligent and is not sufficiently challenged could present the way your child is presenting, which is that they are bored, they are talking, they are distracted, and it's showing up in their grades because they're not paying attention. So as a parent, I had that kind of child, and what we did was I struck a deal with the teacher. Please give her a little extra work sometimes. You have to, and in this country, sadly, teachers are a lot of teachers are uninspired because maybe they just started teaching as a last resort. So they don't pick up on those little cues. That's your job as a parent, to do the things that the teachers cannot do. They are your children. You have to supplement.
Fantastic.
They are your children. You will see the things that the teachers might gloss over. So observe that child. My spirit tells me she's very intelligent but very bored. So you need to look for ways to engage her, such that when she has to sit still in class, her energy levels have been dissipated. So my children are into all sorts of things. They are the ones that are into sports. My son, when he was younger, if you say, come here, he would hop, skip,
jump, somersault, all in the space of 2 meters
Wow.
to get to you. Boundless energy. So what do we do? This is someone who is in 9th grade right now, in the middle of exams, doing lessons at home, but he always tells us he wants his lessons a bit earlier in the day, which is as soon as he gets home from school. Why? Because he wants to shoot basketball
Yeah, so you
before
can go outside
he
and
goes to
play.
bed.
Yeah.
So at 8 p.m. in the night, you're hearing boom, boom, he's bouncing ball.
Yeah.
You need to
that's what
know
works
how
for
to
him.
sufficiently engage your child to the extent to which they need and in the manner that speaks to their strength.
Absolutely.
So Lillian, observe your child. I dare say that she's bored. That's what I'm thinking. So you might need to look for things she likes. It might be in class, in her academic work, or extracurricular. Exactly.
Absolutely.
And just engage her. There's a reason why extracurriculars feature heavily in a lot of good schools. It is because they know that children like to express their passions. I had a rule with my husband and I had a rule with extracurricular. We would never force a child to do, even if we think something is good for them, we would never force them to do. Extracurricular was strictly what they liked. The only thing is, once we see that you're good at it, we will work with you and we will take it seriously. So, for example, all 4 of my children play piano and they take international exams. That is difficult for them but they step up because it means that when their friends are playing beginning of the term, they are practicing, they are studying, they are having exams. So that they don't really have that downtime. But what is done for my children who are now in secondary school is they are very I hardly see. For me, I see 6 years of secondary school as the precursor to independent child in university. I'm not going to be asking a university child, have you copied your notes? Have you done your homework? So secondary school is the dry run, right?
Yeah,
we start with it so that you get used to it, you get, into that. And then by the time you're in that 8th grade, if you like, don't copy your notes. When you see your results or your midterm grades, then we're going to have conversations. We know what is sufficient carrot and stick for each child. So for some of my children, they don't like extra lessons. And so once you tell them that, look, if this grade consistently drops in 2 terms, we will bring in the lesson teacher. Watch those grades start moving back up because they don't want it.
Yep. They don't want to do it. Exactly.
Yeah. So you need to know what your children need. And that speaks to that same incubator effect. Your own incubator will be different from my incubator, will be different from Foluso's incubator because it is supposed to work with what God has provided you with. That's the resources that God has put in your hands, the talents and skills and experiences that God has put in your children, and you are now there to look for. Okay, so for those who are abroad, right? If you live in the US and I'm an avid gardener, you will hear things like zone 1, zone 6A, because the way the weather and the soil messes around with gardening in the same country, but different parts of the country. Will determine that if you plant tomatoes in February, it will die in this place, but if you plant it in this place, it will grow. Yeah. It's the same thing with parenting. Each child has their own zone, has their own threshold, has their own unique soil requirements, and you, the parent, you have to now provide a home that nurtures all those kinds of different plants, all the talents, all the seeds, all that. And like I mentioned earlier, your incubator is not just your physical house. It also has to do with your community, which is why some of us have put in place this godly parenting group. We're a community of parents. We're supporting each other. We're learning from each other. We're growing with each other. As Foluso has said, we're not the authorities on parenting in the sense that we get everything right. We don't have any. No, we are also growing. We have plenty issues, right?
We're all learning.
Yes, we're all in it. Some of us are ahead. Some of us are struggling. There is no good or bad moment. The thing is, once you realize that this is something that you need to improve on, please seek God's grace,
Act on
strength,
it.
wisdom.
Don't pretend
yes, and
like
then
it's not happening.
Act.
Don't pretend like it's not happening.
Snap out of the overwhelm, because I know that a lot of parents are going through overwhelm in this era. Oh, they need to work. Oh, they need to keep up appearances. Oh, they need to do all these things for children. We have come with extracurricular again. Look, you can either focus on the overwhelm and remain overwhelmed and do analysis paralysis, or you can ask God to put you on that sweet spot. Look, my prayer this season is, God, I want to slow down. Please make it possible for me to slow down. And look, he's been doing that for me, and I'm so happy. I have a lot that's going on, but somehow he's helped me weed out the unnecessary things. The priority remains my family. We need to prioritize family. Yes, we need money to make things happen. But guess what? All the money in this world is not going to equate to one child or your spouse or the bonds that you're going to have.
Yeah.
And that's why we have those parents who are now doing instant bestie. I remember sometime earlier in the year, we were having so many posts around parents who were feeling that their children were not grateful, were not this. And it used to get me upset. And I actually wrote some things in some groups. And I said, look, parents, understand something. You are not going to give your children the feeling that you are busy providing resources for them. That's material resources. That's why you are not available. What you've taught that child is that material resources trump personal relationships. And then they're now going to send that child to the schools, the best schools. They're going to be busy. The first wave that hits a lot of parents is when your children enter university. Parents underestimate how busy their university children are. If you want to know how busy university children are, think of how busy your secondary school child is already. And then imagine that they're doing that without
when you were in university. I think that we also have to try to remember and not, be able to relate with the realities. I mean, many of us remember people in secondary school, like there were some things that were tough. Like I keep saying experience. I'm like, but then there are many things that even we did in secondary school. Sorry, two things I would like to quickly say. Because I'm sure I don't even know like what the time is because we're just enjoying our gist. But
exactly, we need to wrap up.
There's something else about Lillian's question that I wanted to address. And thank you so much for bringing up that he or she's probably bored. Another thing I've noticed is there is an age that the schools have said that children should be before they start certain classes. In Nigeria, we love to break that rule. So if they tell you that by September, the child should be this age, we love to be the ones that say, oh, my child is so smart and they can handle it. I've noticed children who are very smart. Yes. Children who are very smart, but are in the wrong class can also come across as disruptive.
Yes.
I see it a lot.
Yeah.
In fact, I know people that have taken their children back to the correct class because they're like, this child is getting great grades, but this child is being disruptive. Because they also don't have... So a 7, 8, 9-year-old, there's a big difference between a 7 and an 8-year-old and 8 and a 9-year-old. So if you put a 7-year-old in a class they're not supposed to be, the chances that all the other kids there are 8 and that 7-year-old is the one that's disrupting is actually very high. It happens a lot. It's not because there's anything wrong with your child. It's only because the child is not supposed to be in that class, because when they created the class, they know the age. I ask parents all the time, I'm like, when you decide the class that your child should be in, sorry, are you an educator? Thank you. And even emotional. I'm like, are you an educator? Like, how do you just decide? And I know that when we were younger, many of these things happen, but don't forget that we're not going by that because now we know better. Many of our parents, living in primary 5, those things were the thing then.
They were cool.
But we know better.
All my children left from 5. Like, okay, so I left from 5. So how has that helped me in all that I've done?
My dear,
I finished secondary school at this age.
I finished at 13. I was in university by 14. Okay, so what does that mean now? All of us, are we now not all graduates at the end of the day? Anyway, so I think that it's important that we also pay attention to that as Nigerian parents especially, because we do that a lot and it affects the children in the long run. Like you said, if even beyond academics, emotionally, because they now get labeled as the troublemaker in the class and everybody's wondering why. It's because they're not mature enough for that class. There's nothing wrong with that child. That child is absolutely fine, but they're not supposed to be in that class. So yeah, please, let's also make sure that we're paying attention to that and not just looking at everything else, but we're also following the rules. Also, if you break rules, your children will break rules. If the school says this is the age, and it's not even a course. Let's just be real. Your children see you, they see your behavior, you know. Anyway,
that's just it.
God help
and if
us
you're
all.
doing it as a course, perhaps you need to start checking whether why are you feeling, because if you don't break rules, right? If you don't break rules with impunity, then when we say that if you break rules, your children will not break rules, it shouldn't trigger you. Because, hey, I don't, well, how does it concern me? I do my best to keep to the rules, right? So, parents, please, we've said a whole lot today, and that's because we've said that the incubator is beyond. Okay, Felicia, you're frozen. I hope that's not from me. I hope you're coming back, because it will be good to round off with you. But while we're waiting for her to come back, we've said a lot today. The incubator is not just the house in which we live in. The incubator is a lot of things. The incubator is, sorry, we're waiting. Felicia is out, but I'm sure she will come back shortly. We're waiting. The incubator is, okay, I don't know who. The incubator is also the community in which your children live, the environment, the mind space. It's a lot of things, right? So as parents, I will summarize and end by saying exactly what Felicia said before. Start with the end in mind. Now, what does that look like practically? You've heard us say lots of things. What are the things you can do today? Sit down for a minute, pray with God, and then sit down and say, where do you see your child? What would you like to see? And be mindful, right? We can see you, Felicia, I can see you in the chat. I can't see you in the live. I think you fell out. So could you ask to join back in if you can hear me? And so just I'm trying to see if I can bring her back in. Okay, it's not coming in. Okay, just so that we wrap up, sit down with God for a moment and say, God, show me what you created my child to be, who you created him to be, right? And then write it down. Write it down. Now, when we say write it down, it doesn't mean that this might not change or that things might not change. It just means that this is what you see in the season. And it's like standing on a small hill. You can only see so far. When you get to the higher hill, you'll see a bigger picture, right? Write down the visions that you have for your children. Write down the visions you have for your children. Pray about them. And then ask God to show you how you, both of you, that's you and God, your spouse, that's, when I say both, I'm assuming couples are as one unit as well. Single parent home to dual parent home, pray and ask God to show you, to work with you, to reveal that vision. And that takes a lot of humility. That takes a lot of faith. That takes a lot of objectivity. That means that you have to also sometimes get out of your child's way. Because guess what? Your child is going to be something that you may not even have any concept for. You don't have any context. You don't even know what it's about. Especially in this era. There's so many things that our children can be that we've never heard of. There's so many things that children do today that we have never experienced. And just because a parent reached out to me and said, my child wants to be an aeronautical engineer. Yeah. And she, I think hers was even something about space, a space engineer, something. And she said the problem she's having is that means she has to study abroad. They're not sure they can fund it. And will she be able to study this in Nigeria? And I had a conversation and I said, look, you need to pray to God about this.
Absolutely.
Because whether or not this child is in Nigeria or abroad, if that's what that child is destined to do, it will
They're
work.
going to study it. Yes.
They're going to study it.
Exactly.
So walk in faith.
Exactly.
Then have a conversation with this child and say, look.
Very important.
Yes.
On this
Yes, we must
journey.
parent in
Very,
faith.
very
We must
important.
always walk in faith. Right?
Absolutely.
Have conversations with your children. I've had so many conversations. There's nothing we do about our children's future that we do without their active consent and participation. So if our children are, for example, my first is getting ready. She's in grade 11, SS2. So we're looking at schools. We're doing this. She is the one. I'm saying, look, what do you want to do? When I say is because you guys can see me. Bear in mind, I will say this anywhere. Every strategic decision, every major thing, my husband and I sit down, we discuss it. Sometimes he's the one who executes, sometimes and I support, and sometimes I execute and he supports. So please, I will put this caveat here. If you hear me say it's because I'm speaking I as my husband and I. We're a unit when it comes to our children. That is critical. Parents, if you are not a single unit when it comes to your children, you are sending mixed messaging to your children. That is a recipe for disaster. So decide, go behind closed doors and trash out all your difference of opinions. But when you are facing your children, face them as a single unit. You are teaching your children how to do that in the future with their own spouses. And you are also telling your children we are a united force. They cannot play one against each other. They are only going to benefit from having both of you as a united force. And I think that will be where I will end for today. Foluso, even though we can't see you, I know you are actively here. So
I am.
Yes, could you just give us your last word for the evening? It's been an amazing evening. We've run so much out of time, but I mean.
Yeah, I think that for me, the summary of all of this, because a lot has been said, is really just the importance of your relationship with God as you parent, as you go through the journey of life. There's nothing that we've said here that is easy.
Oh my, I think you.
Real things. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you now.
Okay. I don't mean money or material things. I mean the best, even with regards to exposing them to the fullness of their potential, helping them reach their purpose, giving them a level of dominion and confidence, right? Because they know that I was created for a purpose. I'm not just anybody, and nobody is trying to make me into who I'm not. Letting them have that confidence. All those things are what brings your child back home when they get older. Those are the things that makes your children feel like you are not forcing yourself upon them in their 20s. They actually enjoy you because they know that you really are looking out for their best and not your best in them, because you are not God. All right. So please, let's do this journey with God. We would nothing without him. So let's put him into our parenting journey all the way. Thank you so much for having me, Ify.
Thank you so much for being here, Foluso. It was an amazing session. So much insight, a lot of fun conversations, a lot of interesting things that we were able to discuss. So everyone, if you want to watch, for those who joined in halfway, midway, by tomorrow, the replay is going to be on my page. You can check it here, or you can find it on our YouTube page, the same name, the Godly Parenting Summit. And you can catch all the replays of our Parenting with the Father series on our YouTube page. Also, this coming weekend, we are putting the replays of our 2024 Godly Parenting Summit. So the Godly Parenting Summit starts last week of April every year and ends first week of June. It's 6 Saturdays of amazing stuff. We normally keep the replays for the duration of the summit, but the summit is over and I am being inspired to ensure that people get maximum exposure. So we're going to bring up the replays from this Saturday, all through the Salah break. That's up till Tuesday 18. That gives you 4 days to be able to watch the 6 replays. Please, you don't want to miss that. There are so many nuggets. There's so many things to learn. We had amazing and powerful speakers. And if you don't get it in this window, or you want to keep the replays for life, then there's a token to be paid. I will put up all the information this week on our page, and with all the details of how to get the lifetime replay. Thank you so much, Foluso, for being here with us. It's a pity that we can't see your beautiful face now.
I can't see myself.
Imagine that. I really don't know what's going on.
Yeah. Anyway, it's all good.
But thank you so much. It was amazing. It was a pleasure just having this conversation with you. Thank you, everyone, for being with us, even though we went far beyond our time. I guess time flies when you're having fun. Thank you for being with us. Grip by Grace, amazing. You are always here from start to finish. Thank you so much. I'm glad you got value. Thank you, everyone, and have a restful evening. Bye.
Bye, everyone. Thank you.